and welcome to the Dailies. International and U.S. media were consumed this week by the release of newly uncovered Jeffrey Epstein emails, which allegedly link high-profile figures, including Donald Trump, to Epstein's inner circle, fueling fresh political and legal debate. At the same time, American outlets closely tracked the official end of the record-breaking U.S. government shutdown, analyzing its economic fallout and political cost. In the Middle East, President Trump stirred diplomatic controversy by sending a letter to Israeli President Isaac Herzog, urging a full pardon for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. A move that reignited debate over political influence and judicial independence in Israel. American media scrambled to cover the Epstein-Trump email story with the urgency of a breaking political scandal. Coverage of the new Epstein emails mentioning Trump has been intense and polarized, with mainstream outlets framing the emails as evidence suggesting Trump's deeper awareness of Epstein's conduct. Conservative platforms, however, largely dismissed the revelations as overblown or politically timed distractions amid the government shutdown. The New York Times analyzes thousands of documents released by the House Oversight Committee from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, focusing on emails that illuminate Epstein's interactions with Donald Trump. The piece reveals that Epstein frequently discussed Trump in private correspondence, suggesting Trump was aware of his misconduct. Exchanges with Ghislaine Maxwell, journalist Michael Wolff, and lawyer Roy Black show Epstein monitoring Trump's activities and contemplating media strategies involving him. The piece highlights that while Democrats claim the emails show Trump's awareness of Epstein's crimes, Republicans dismiss the documents as inconsequential. The report underscores how the communications expose the lingering political and moral implications of Epstein's network. Politico, on the other hand, presents a forensic breakdown of the most startling findings in the newly released tranche of Epstein-related documents, emails, ledgers, logs uncovered by congressional investigators. The analysis methodically outlines how these records expose links between Epstein and elites across politics, media, and finance, underscoring his continued shadow influence over or even after his 2019 arrest. Among the 9 highlighted revelations, explicit emails alleging that Donald Trump was aware of the girls trafficked by Epstein, the role of journalist Michael Wolff as a strategic advisor, schedules showing planned meetings with billionaires and high-profile politicians, and Epstein's obsessive tracking of Trump's political ascent. The piece succeeds in weaving all these discrete data points into a broader narrative about institutional complacency and power protection, though it stops short of drawing firm legal conclusions. And as House Speaker Mike Johnson is being compelled to schedule a floor vote on the release of federal files tied to Jeffrey Epstein's investigations, Newsweek spotlights Donald Trump's combative reaction to the release of newly surfaced Epstein's emails referencing him. The report notes that after House Democrats publicized messages suggesting Trump knew about Epstein's girls, the president quickly took to social media, branding the disclosures a Democratic hoax meant to distract from ongoing government shutdown. Newsweek also portrays Trump's response as a characteristically defiant, an effort to reframe the scandal as partisan persecution rather than personal implication. While acknowledging the potential damage to his image, the piece cites legal analysts who argue the emails are indeed unlikely to yield criminal consequences. Now, overall, the piece captures how Trump turns scandal defense into a political counteroffensive. The newly released Epstein emails reverberated across the Atlantic, sparking fresh controversy in the UK as British media dissected their implications for figures once linked to Epstein's circle. The Telegraph reported on those newly surfaced emails that suggest Prince Andrew told Maxwell, "I can't take any more of this," referencing the mounting scandal involving alleged victim Virginia Giuffre. The piece outlines how the correspondence implicates Andrew more deeply in Epstein's network, contradicting his earlier claims of limited involvement. While the piece stops short of proving legal guilt, it frames the emails as a potential public relations disaster for the prince and the monarchy. It underscores how reputational risk and institutional accountability remain tightly linked. American media also continued to follow government shutdown news, reporting on the official end of the longest U.S. federal shutdown in history, 43 days after Donald Trump signed a stopgap funding bill restoring operations. The Washington Post tracks how the shutdown severely impacted air travel, food aid programs, and federal staffing. The piece also details the partisan maneuvering, the House's 222 to 229 vote, largely along party lines. The Senate agreement, negotiated by a mix of Republicans and only 7 Democrats, and Speaker Mike Johnson's effort to recast the outcome as a win for GOP. Also, the report suggests that the political fallout may linger into the 2026 midterm cycle. The Wall Street Journal reveals how a discreet bipartisan meeting broke the deadlock of the nation's longest government shutdown. Senators Angus King, Jeanne Shaheen, Maggie Hassan, and Republican leader John Thune quietly negotiated a stopgap deal that reopened federal agencies through January 30th. The piece highlights how the small centrist coalition bypassed party leaders, including Chuck Schumer, whose insistence on broader health care provisions stalled the progress. Also, the Wall Street Journal shows how late-night talks and also political compromises ended the stalemate, revealing that both the power of centrist dealmakers and the limits of partisan fighting. In the end, the piece presents the agreement as a sign of teamwork, but also of deep divisions within the parties. The Times of Israel reported that Donald Trump sent a letter to Isaac Herzog urging a full pardon for Benjamin Netanyahu, who is facing multiple corruption trials. The piece highlights Trump's assertion that the prosecution is a political, unjustified attack, and also his framing of Netanyahu as a pivotal wartime leader deserving of exoneration. The report also, as you can see, it outlines how Israeli law stipulates that a pardon can only be considered after a formal request and typically following a conviction, casting doubt on the path ahead. While the tone underscores the diplomatic weight of Trump's move, the piece notes that the broader implications for Israeli legal norms and U.S.-Israeli relations. We'll go back to the Telegraph, which chronicles a highly unusual visit by Donald Trump with Ahmed al-Shara, the Syrian leader, at the White House. The piece explains that during the meeting, Trump gifted and also sprayed his own perfume on al-Shara, remarking, "This is the best fragrance," and offering another bottle for the Syrian leader's wife, then asked, "How many wives?" After al-Shara responded with one, the president then said, "I never know with you guys." But the piece uses the incident to highlight Trump's unorthodox diplomatic style and the broader thaw in US-Syria relations, noting that al-Shara is the first Syrian head of state to visit Washington since 1946. The report was lightly scandalous and focuses less on policy substance and more on theatrical spectacle, questioning whether such moments help or hinder serious diplomacy. And we'll end with The Independent, which reports that a newly analyzed DNA sample extracted from a blood-stained cloth linked to Adolf Hitler's death scene identified him as likely having Kalman syndrome, a genetic disorder affecting sexual development and puberty. The report outlines that this finding may indeed explain historical rumors of intimate relationship difficulties that Hitler faced. Additionally, the piece highlights the DNA evidence, or that the DNA evidence also refutes claims of Hitler having Jewish ancestry. The piece also quotes experts who emphasize that genetics do not determine moral behavior, cautioning against drawing broad psychological conclusions. That's it for today. Thanks for watching the Dailies only on Al Arabiya English.